What's up, everybody? This is your host, Mike Ivanov. Welcome back. It's about 9:02 p.m. Sunday night. I try to get this done before I have to go to bed. But it's been an action-packed week. Particularly the last couple days have been real nice. We'll touch on that. Saturday, spent the day. It's actually great because my I don't give her enough credit and don't talk about her near enough, but, I was talking about burnout and I was having a tough time last week, and it continued to be even more rough this week, and we'll detail that a little bit later. But she, midweek, scheduled a car ride, right? So she wanted to, so I have like a race car that I built. Yeah, it's kind of my pride and joy, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So she wanted to go for a ride. So she said, hey, listen, man, like this is what we're doing Saturday. Get up, go get the car, come pick me up, back at the house, and we'll go for a drive. Had a bunch of things planned. I'm going to stop at a local farm, get some local produce. I think it was Marini's farm in Ipswich. It was a nice place to stop. I ended up getting some green beans and some cherries and some corn. But what was nice is, when we were, we've been together almost 20 years now, but she's been around me in cars for a long time. And we used to, when we were younger in college, go out and just ride around in my car. I had modified cars most of my life, not like the one I have today. The one I have today is like my childhood dream car, 2007 Honda S2000. It's silver. Pretty much everything on that car has been modified. There's nothing that hasn't been touched on that car. So the motor itself, I actually built the motor in my kitchen. Brian Crowder billet crankshaft, CP pistons, Carrillo rods. It's the factory block, but it's been sleeved, and it's a step deck, which is kind of cool. And the cylinder head's got Ferrera valves, and all the valve train's been redone. Bolted up to that, I got a full race manifold with a GTX 3582R turbo. Thing is just menacing. 1300cc injectors. Car's fucking sick. And it's fast. Made 521 at the wheels, which means it was making over 600 crank horsepower. Yeah, it's something to be seen. And you know what? It brings such a smile to my face, but I never drive it. Like it sits in the garage, and you just kind of like collects dust. And on the way home from work on Friday, buddy of mine, Nick, was like, "Hey, dude, just have fun this weekend driving the car." And I had mentioned it to him. I was kind of excited. I kind of got to build myself up to these things too, because I don't know. It's just with life being so busy and doing all these other things, I sometimes forget like what really makes me happy and what I really enjoy. And it's been cars forever. Like I was telling you, my wife and I have always gone out and driven around, and it forces us both to be like present. You can't be on your phone driving this car. Like it's you got to be locked in the entire time. So we're both just windows down, blasting through the back roads in Raleigh, Ipswich, Gloucester. I mean, just a great time. Stopping at a farm here and we went to Vin Fromage over in Wenham. Got some nice cheese and things like that. It was just all around a great day. And then dropped the car off, and then we headed to the beach and got to watch the sunset there. Just great weather all around. I needed it so bad, man. I've just been running on an empty tank. And I'm just thankful my wife makes me take these times to relax and kind of build these things into my routine, which I need to do a better job of. And obviously it's just so timely with what's been going on over the last week. So that was Saturday. And then today was super action packed. Unfortunately, I usually will never get less than 8 hours of sleep. But the day got away from me yesterday, and had to wake up early, which is only 6 o'clock in the morning. But on a Sunday, 6 o'clock in the morning. We stayed up a little late last night. So I get up for Cars and Coffee, and pretty tired. But that's like the one. It's the one event that I'll skip some sleep for. Is a Cars and Coffee. So Sunday, get up early. I head over to pick up my car, and I meet Kyle, and a buddy of his, great guy, Mr. Taylor is what we'll call him. He had a Mustang, and Kyle's got his Porsche 996, heavily modified, 600 plus horsepower, new turbos, got a whole GT3 Aero kit on it. The car's absolutely fucking just disgusting. White, brown interior. One of my favorite parts is it has a little roll cage in it, but it's all wrapped in leather. Super, super classy. So we kind of rolled out. We were mobbing down the highway. It was so sick. My younger self, my 13 to 17-year-old self, if I ever saw these cars flying down the highway like we were today, I would have been absolutely on cloud nine. But I feel like you got to keep the car dream alive for young kids. So whenever I see a young kid and I'm out driving my car, I make sure to, just give him a little rev. And because I just know how when I was a kid, I'd see these cars and it would just always just set my mind free, and I'd always dream about them. And today, now I've got my childhood dream car. And so we took it out to Cars and Coffee. Absolutely great time. Some beautiful cars. Just a great afternoon all around. So ended up parking the cars over there and got out. You walk around, you see everybody's car kind of rolling in, and everybody's on a little bit of a different schedule. So you get to the parking lot and everybody kind of rolls in at their own pace. So we got there about 7:30, so we get a parking spot and just car after car rolling in. Beautiful day. Everybody was having a great time. Just great vibe. I wish I did these things more often, and I always avoid them for some reason because it just seems like whatever. I'd rather, not I'd rather be, but usually that's when I go out for a run, and I don't always have time to drive the car. But right now, sitting here at 9 o'clock at night, I'm completely stoked from the last couple of days of driving this thing. So anyway, we were there for a couple of hours, and we all had to take off because we have regular lives to attend to, and I pulled out and saw there's a photographer posted up on the corner where I pulled out. So I shot up the street, circled back around, and came right by, and he got a couple absolutely sick pictures of my car. I was super stoked, so I pulled over, gave him my card, and make sure that he had my information to send me those pictures. So I just got those a couple minutes ago, and they're so awesome. So super happy to have some nice little pictures. I'll share them online. If you jump on my Instagram, you can check them out. Anyway, drove home, parked the car, and headed back home. Got home, did a couple things, was just feeling really run down, really tired, and we'll get to what's been going on in the beginning of the week in a second here. So I ended up sitting on the couch and fell asleep for 3 hours. So I slept from about 3 to 6. Really needed it, but not fully recovered. So let's go there. Monday, the day after I dropped the first podcast about burnout, I was having a bad evening. Was super just zonked out. I had nothing to give anybody. My mind was in a bad spot. So if you talk about, I mentioned that I didn't give a lot of scientific information last time, right? So when you're experiencing this level of burnout I was talking about, your cortisol has just completely gone rogue. So normally, your cortisol will, it will allow you to focus and it'll give you energy under stress, but only in short bursts, right? So, but when you're experiencing a level of burnout, cortisol will stay elevated for way too long. And that will cause chronic inflammation, water retention, brain fog, and mood swings, right? So that's what I was experiencing. And what now looking back after having, this week of real struggle, starting May 1st, so I track my weight. I weigh every day in the morning at the same time. So that's super standard, right? So I've been tracking that weight every single day. And I've noticed since May 1st, my weight's been fluctuating. So normally I weigh in at about 202 pounds, and it usually just kind of stays there perfectly. But with all this, I guess with everything going on, I've been starting to experience some fluctuation in my weight. Couldn't really explain it. So one day I'd weigh in at like 207, be back down to 203, up to 208, down to 204, up to 210, down to like 206. So what's really crazy is it kept fluctuating like that, even if my calorie count was lower than usual. So that was the first trigger that I ignored, right? First signal I ignored. And that hasn't happened to me. So that was like, so I went pretty far down this path that I shouldn't have. I should have picked up on this because I've been telling people about it. So I've been talking about it. Like, hey, listen, I've been experiencing this and that. What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. So whatever. Just something to point out. So if you are ever seeing weight fluctuation like that and calorie counts the same and you're weighing in at the same time and everything in your routine has remained the same, that could be, part of a signal, right? So then, having dopamine issues as well. No motivation, completely gone. Normally that dopamine, drives that reward structure, the focus, right? The pursuit of the goals. But when you're in a state of burnout, that constant stress drains the dopamine store. So things that used to excite you are fucking meaningless. And I noticed that, right? And then I also was having, like I mentioned, mood problems. So serotonin, big factor here. So when you're normally, like functioning normally, serotonin will keep your mood stable. It helps you, stay calm and grounded. But when you're in a burnout state, chronic stress will deplete that serotonin. And then you get the anxiety, the paranoia, the irritability, the emotional volatility. Okay, I was experiencing anxiety, paranoia, irritability, and emotional volatility. I was experiencing all of those. Okay, so when I tell you, so I'm sitting on the floor stretching at night, and my wife is trying to have a nice conversation with me, and I should be available to listen. But deep down inside, I'm sitting there. I've got the anxiety going. I got the paranoia going. I'm irritated, having a hard time regulating my emotions, right? And I'm sitting there trying to figure out what the fuck it is when I really just need to say, hey, dude, are you surprised you feel this way? Look at everything that's going on. You just did a fucking podcast about burnout. Okay, there's a reason why you did that. And now you're sitting here Monday night freaking out trying to figure out what's wrong with you. Okay? So anyway, there's a lot of other things that go on into this, but that's just kind of a high level, look at what I was experiencing. So with the weight fluctuations, the mood slips, the lack of motivation, all that stuff, I go to bed Monday night hoping that I'll wake up and everything will feel better. I wake up Tuesday and I can't get out of bed. Now, I knew what it was, okay, because I've been there before. But it doesn't matter if you've been there before because the disappointment starts to kick in. So I can't go to work. So I call out of work, lay in bed all day. I slept 13 and a half hours. Still woke up, felt like shit, felt exhausted. This is Tuesday. Complete shell of a human being. And I hang around the house all day. I try to eat as healthy as possible. So I know what it is. I'm like, all right, I'm feeling bad. This isn't great. What can I do? I've already slept 13 and a half hours. I still feel like shit. All right. The next thing is that I'm going to try to get as little steps as possible because I need to just relax. I'm just going to sit down and veg out. Well, hindsight would tell me that that's not great for me. Okay. And Devin helped me figure that out. She mentioned like, hey, dude, sitting around the house isn't good for you. Now, what's funny about sitting around the house is it goes back to like, there's like this thing in my childhood, right? Where when I was a kid and I was out sick from school, or, my mom would always tell me, if you're not going to go to work, you better not leave the fucking house, right? Like if you're sick, you stay home, we don't leave the house. Because if you leave, you're somewhere where you shouldn't have been and something bad might happen. So I still carry this like fucking paranoia about leaving my house when I'm sick or don't feel good, which I've been carrying since I was a little kid. But the point being is that I should have gone out for a walk. I should have gone outside. I should have done something, right, rather than sit around. All right. So Tuesday night, I was getting this feedback, from my wife, and she was a little concerned because this hasn't happened in a while, and I was really fucked up, and I messaged a couple of people that I know and started kind of talking about what was going on, and because I'm training for this race coming up in September, and I'm upset, super upset that geez, look at this, I can't train, I'm gonna fall behind. And when you're in this situation, you think that time slows way down. So instead of being all right, hey, this is a couple days down, just enjoy it, relax, I'm freaking out about it, and it's making it worse, And I got some really good advice from somebody that mentioned to me, and this is from their personal experience. They said to me that it happens to the best of us, right? And I really respect this person who gave me this advice. They train at a very high level. And they said that they find it's important to mentally note that you aren't taking time off from training, but rather this is part of the training in and of itself. I love that. That helped get me through the last couple days where I was having that issue. That was really, really great advice. And I want to share that with you all because that was something that was playing out in my head. I just kept thinking that way. I was like, all right, yeah, this is part of the training. This is part of the training. This happens. You hit a wall. This is, this is, it's not supposed to be easy, right? So I go to bed Tuesday night and wake up 13 and a half hours later. Again, didn't go to work. Needed to recover, needed to be my best. If you're not rested, you can't deliver a good quality of work anyway. And I think too many people push themselves when they're having problems trying, when they're sick or when they're not recovered, trying to provide quality work is next to impossible, especially with brain fog and whatever else is going on. So Wednesday I wake up, and this time I'm going to take my wife's advice and I'm going to get outside. Even though, in the back of my head, the statement my mom would always make when I was a kid about not leaving the house when you're 6, playing in the back of my head. But I have to force myself to leave the house. I feel like absolute ass. I don't want to go anywhere. So I just get up, I go outside, I sit in the sun for a little bit, start to feel a little better. Then I'm like, let me just go for a quick stroll. I'll walk down to the post office, I'll get the mail, come back to the house. So I go down, I walk around, half a mile, get to the post office, get my packages, come back home. I'm like, man, I gotta still not feeling good. And I'm kind of freaking out in my head thinking this is never gonna go away. And of course it will. But in the moments, that's all you can think about is it's not gonna go away. So texting with a buddy, and he's like, dude, you gotta go to the beach. Go to the beach, get in the water. I live really close to the beach, I'm 9 minutes away. So I'm like, all right, yeah, we'll go to the beach. Now, it's funny because I had to drag myself to the beach. Most people would never say that, right? You want to go to the beach. It's a great place to go. But I was just in this spot that I couldn't get out of. So I dragged myself there. And the reason I mentioned that you have to drag yourself there is a lot of us in our lives, won't drag ourselves through things. We get that first little level of resistance and then we, back off. Sometimes you got to go through the motions, man. You got to drag yourself through the workouts. You got to drag yourselves through the hard conversations. You got to drag yourselves through, all the mundane tasks that make you better. And in this particular situation, my recovery was important, and it was going to happen by getting to that beach, sitting in the sand, reflecting, no phone, no book, just looking out across the horizon and getting in that salt water. So that's what I did. I got there, the entire time, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. But then when you get home, you don't want to be there either. That's the whole problem with being burnt out and experiencing these levels of fatigue is that no matter where you are, you're not comfortable. Even when you're trying to sleep, you're not comfortable. It's tough. Now I'm feeling a little bit better now, but I mean, obviously I'm still experiencing some of these level of fatigue, right? I told you I came home and fell asleep for 3 hours on the couch, like deep sleep, right? From 3 to 6, so I still have some recovery to do, which is a little concerning because I would want to ramp things up next week, and hit the ground running right out the gate. So we'll see what happens. I got to get to bed here soon so that I can get a good night's sleep and be ready for work tomorrow. But Tuesday was a better day. I came home. It was a much better day. Wednesday, sorry. Wednesday was a much better day. So I come home from the beach. My wife gets home and she's like, "Hey, are you feeling better?" And I hadn't taken registry of how I was feeling because I was stuck in my own head. I was starting to feel bad for myself, and this is something that we all have to look out for because it starts with like a physical exhaustion of the body, but then that will leak into the brain and the brain will start to think like, oh man, like everything is falling apart. We're all exhausted, all of us, right? The body and the mind. So whatever, I started feeling a little bit better. I mentioned it to my wife and I had a coaching call to do that evening. And, I have to summon all of my energy for those type of things. My clients count on me to bring them everything I have. I have to be at my best level, when I'm trying to help others and we're working through hard things and we're trying to make progress and we're doing all the hard work, right? I can't show up half-ass. So anyway, real quick before we get to that, Tuesday night, and you guys will fucking love this, I'm sitting on the floor stretching, completely wrecked, and I get a text from Ben Kelly, and all it says is Newburyport half marathon in November. And I'm like, motherfucker, like, I'm laid up right now. And you're sending me this fucking text. Like, shit. But part of me made me happy because I was like, you know what? Like, yeah, I'll be ready for that. Like, this shit's only temporary. So, of course, all I said back was, yep. Gave him a little shit for, for texting me when I was, all laid up. But that's sometimes the shit you need, man. You need people like that around you, right? And that helped me, gave me a little energy. So back to this coaching call where we're having a good time. We're got a client that's got some big wins under his belt. Super, super proud of him, making some big moves. And we're talking and we're starting to finish up the call. And comes across my screen, Kyle Hayden sends me a text. And all I can see is it's like a map of like a run that he did. And, we had been talking the last couple of days, about me being kind of smoked, and he's giving me some words of encouragement, right? We're always kind of picking each other up and making sure each other's doing well, especially we both have a big training regimen that we're always going through as just part of life. So he sends me this map, and I know it's a run. And the guy I was talking to, and I'll leave him nameless, but I'm sure he'll hear this. But I was like, man, fucking Kyle just sent me a map, and I know it's a run. He's like, well, click on it. So I click on it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, look at that. Dude ran whatever. It was running like 3 miles, and whatever time was a fast pace. And I was like, fuck, I've been laid up a couple days. And the dude's like, man, you gonna let him talk shit like that? And I'm like, no, absolutely fucking not. And I was like, you know what, man? I'm gonna go out and run right now. And that's not a smart move. And I'll tell you right now, that was fucking dumb. But we finished up our call. I put my shoes on, went out and crushed his time. We won't get into too much detail. I don't want to rub it in too bad in case he listens, I don't want him to try to, bite my ear off during jiu-jitsu or something like that. So we'll keep it kind of clean here. But I went out and smoked his 3 mile time, and then I threw another 3 miles on top just for good measure. So ended up with a 6 mile run. And my client, he took off for a run and he banged out 5 miles, sent it to me. So we were just building that energy back. And I came home and felt great. So this is Wednesday afternoon, feeling way better than, Tuesday during the day. So we're looking at like a day and a half of just being completely fucking wrecked we're looking at 27 hours of sleep in the last 2 days that I had, and then I'm out ripping 6 miles. So felt great. But what it really said to me, and I told this to somebody else, I said, yeah, man, I told them this story, and they're like, dude, you lost your head. And that's a fact, okay? That is an absolute fact, and I'm reflecting on it right now, and I'm sharing it with all of you, because the whole point here is for me to share what's fucking messing me up, where I'm getting stuck, because I could sit here and pretend, and most people will. They won't let you know about this type of shit, because they'll say, oh, yeah, I don't want anybody knowing like I was down and out. I don't want anybody knowing I was feeling bad. I don't want anybody to know like my mind was all fucked up. But like this is the real shit that happens. And, a lot of people don't talk about that, because we're in a world where everything needs to look pretty. Everybody needs to be, hold their ego and make themselves look like they're tough and shit. But like, nah, man, I was fucking laid up. I was sitting there feeling bad for myself. Okay, like letting my mind eat me alive, and all I needed to do was just fucking shut the machine down, shut it down, relax. But I couldn't do it, and I'm better for it now. I'll be able to recognize it now when it comes knocking, but I'm still not out of the woods yet. I'm probably 25%, where I need to be. So now I have to figure out how to get through the next 4 weeks. And still run some miles, because we've got this race coming up in about 4 weeks. And, I'm not going to show up and be fucking embarrassed. That's for sure. But I can't let that thought process ruin my recovery. So I have to play this little game. I have to see the most recovery I can get, right? And play it close to the line where, I might be under trained when I get to this race, but I will tell you for sure, there's one thing. I will get those 20 miles done, no problem. That will happen. There's no way that won't happen. I just wanted to get a real good time. I want to put up a real good effort. But this is that balance you kind of fuck around with. I knew this when I took on jiu-jitsu, that it was going to be difficult to keep doing all these things I wanted to do. I like to think that nothing has to give, but something does have to give. And fuck myself up the last couple of days here. But I want to share that. Rest will be the next thing I pursue, learning about. I didn't put a lot of stock in its value, but it is just as important as the actual process of training in itself, right? I mentioned that feedback I had gotten. I mentioned that earlier, and that's very, very valuable. But you cannot put forth a good level of work if you do not take rest as serious as the very work itself. And I've realized that. So what's really kind of cool to mention is I mentioned this coffee shop that I go to, Little Wolf, and how, I've got to know a lot of people there. And a month ago, I met a guy named Matt, and he shared a book recommendation with me. And I always talk to people. I always try to get book recommendations from people, because it's always great to know, what they're reading. And recommendations are always better than just trying to pick a random book yourself. But the book was called Rest. And let me tell you, I dusted it off today, and I read a couple pages, and it's right on par with what I need to hear. But it's funny, because if I had just read the book back when he had recommended it to me, I might not be in the situation I am today. But it's funny how timely that book was suggested to me. So when I was telling you around May 1st, I was experiencing all these different weight fluctuations. That's about when I got the book from him. So it's just funny how the world works, man. But yeah, I'll keep you updated. I'll start reading the book this week, give you some updates on it. First couple pages already are kind of spot on with everything that I need to hear. But yeah, it's about that recovery. That's what I'm doing right now. And just trying to share openly and honestly about what's going on. And I think the biggest thing right now that's bothering me is that I know that I'm not going to be able to do it all. I'm not going to be able to do all the jiu-jitsu, all the running, all the lifting, okay? I'm not going to be able to do it. And I do not want to give up or scale back on anything. But somebody gave me some good advice, and they said, Mike, this type of thing is not switches. It's dials, right? And what does that mean? you can't turn these things on and off like a light switch, right? It can't be full on, can't be full off. What you have to do is you have to turn the dial, right? Like adjust the volume a little bit. So you got to turn. So I got to turn down the lifting. I got to turn down the jiu-jitsu a little bit. And I got to turn the running up, right? And then when I'm done with this race, and we have that, and then after that 20-mile race in September, we've got a half marathon in November now, thanks to Ben, trying to fucking kill me. I'm hard to kill though, so that's completely fine. So then I'll turn the running down after that's over, and then I'll turn the lifting and the jiu-jitsu up for when the cold weather starts coming, right? Now I'll still be out getting some miles. I'll figure out what that weekly mileage looks like to kind of maintain through the winter. But I think that's kind of how I got to start doing things. For me, it's almost like a personality flaw where I think I can do all of these things full blast no matter what, and that nothing is going to give. And then when something gives, I'm all fucking butthurt about it, like... Again, there is some rewiring that I need to do in the brain to get better at training, which is resting. I have given zero thought to resting. In fact, I've always talked shit about it. And I wonder why I keep hitting these walls. And you got to think that the guy who's most consistent is the guy that wins the race, right? Or the guy that achieves the greatest result. So I need to figure out how to alleviate some of these down weeks that I'll run into. So what I'm thinking is every 5 or 6 weeks, I schedule in a deliberate week off where I just unplug everything. Now I say that now, and then 5 to 6 weeks from now, I'm not going to take that week off. So if anybody, sees me around, please give me that reminder that every 5 to 6 weeks, you need a week off. I know that I need to do that. I've had that discussion with myself past months, even last year, but I haven't executed on it. So for me, Tuesday and Wednesday were some pretty dark fucking days, and I got to tell you, I have to do everything I can to stop those days from happening. But I also want to mention that what made me get through this was the circle of people that I have around me, the people that I talk to and share openly with about how I'm feeling. Those people helped me get through this little downtime because it was an outside perspective where they know my baseline, and then they know kind of my level of activity. They know who I am and can give me great advice. So you need to have people around you like that. And that's kind of what I want to close out and let you know is that these people that are around me help me be able to get back on my feet quickly, right? Where I would say most people run into this problem, they're going to be down a couple weeks, maybe a month, okay? Maybe a couple months, because then they're going to say, oh man, I don't want to go back to that spot, so I'm going to avoid it. Me, it was like a day and a half, okay? Because I had great people around me, okay? Giving me great advice, helping me, kind of dimension the problem, step outside myself. So you need to find those people in your life, all right? Very, very important. I give a lot of credit to those guys for how fast I was able to recover. And then the fact that Kyle sent me that run, when I sent him back my time, I was like, what'd you fucking think was going to happen when you sent me that? And I know deep down inside, he sent me his run because he knew it would do something positive for me, and it would allow me to make that switch in my mind for stop feeling bad for myself and go back and fucking get after it. And that's exactly what I fucking did. And that's exactly why I'm sitting here today at fucking 9:30 at night on a podcast telling you guys about it. All right. So I'm going to get to bed. We'll have a great Monday. Appreciate all of your time. I love you all. We'll see you around.